Hello everybody, Windy Wanders the City. This is your host Paul today. Today we're going to start doing the South Loop. We're going to start exploring the South Loop. Now it's not that the South Loop is huge, it's just that there's an awful lot of points of interest here. So we'll go up and down several of the streets. We're going to start at the northwest corner, and we are in the northwest corner. The South Loop is bounded by Congress Expressway or the Ida B. Wells, which is you can see the cars streaming by the north side of this park. I'm in a dog park right now. This is the Oscar D'Angelo Park. And then it is bounded by the river, which you see the large building in the background. That's the old post office. In front of that is the river. So you've got the gate or the fence just the other side of this street, which is Franklin. And that's the river. And then it follows the river south all the way to Roosevelt. And then from Roosevelt, it goes all the way over to Lake Michigan. Howdy, everybody. Great to see you, Fuzzy Pink Handcuffs. Howdy, James. I kind of tricked you all this morning. Sorry about that I had a bit of a rant. Starbucks is no longer a favored coffee of mine. For the past 2 years, my morning routine is I get up, I take my dog for his morning walk. I go by the Starbucks. We grab a coffee. I use the mobile system. I walk in, I walk out. I go to the park. Yesterday, I was confronted by the new store manager that I will no longer be welcome to come in with my dog. So, now, back to the South Loop. As I mentioned, right, we've got the north boundary is Ida B. Wells or the Congress Expressway. And we're going to walk south along the river here. This is new building. All of this used to be vacant land. So you've got the Alta here. I think this is the Grand Alta. The Grand Alta, then the Alta, and then the Reed. They're going to put 2 more buildings on this property. This used to be open field all the way to the building behind it, which is River City. River City was the first residential developed property here, and it's been here since probably 1980. And again, from here all the way to River City, you can't see it right now because of that black building called the Reed that's in front of us. So you wouldn't be able to see it now, but they put in a river walk. We'll go down there. That would have been the only residential building here, and it would have had basically no neighbors. It was built in the time when it was still a tough neighborhood, and there was still a lot of manufacturing. So here we're going to follow the boardwalk here, follow along the river. Typically when we go past the river, we're going to see architectural tours, and today is no different. Right, we've got an architectural tour here, and the docent's telling us about some of the buildings here. Now, across the river from us, this is a working post office. Now, mostly this is large trucks and large bins moving from one truck to another truck. So it doesn't really come down to letter handlers pulling out letters in this situation. This is bulk coming out of one truck and going into another truck. Just beyond it is the actual post office where they're going to separate out to the carrier trucks. This is the new post office. The old post office. Sorry. That is not a functioning post office. That is now an office building. Up on top, there's a park. If you look through the videos, you'll see that one of the past videos, we did a tour of that park upstairs. You've got the river and Harrison Street here. Yes. Windy does run on Duncan now. I will always say that I've always liked Duncan, but it was a bad day it was a bad look for the Starbucks folks. It's kind of cozy here, right? So we're surrounded by these large residential buildings, right? But as we walk down this path, especially in the summertime, when all the greenery is out, it's just a cozy little hidden path down here. Today, we're going to walk Wells Street. We will walk Clark Street, We will walk Financial, maybe, Dearborn, Plymouth, State, and Michigan. So part of Grant Park is actually would be considered South Loop, but we'll save that for another day. Just seeing just some beautiful greenery here. Now, you can take the ramp back up, or they've got a little like stone amphitheater here. And I'm going to walk up the stone amphitheater. There's some children out here, so I'm going to keep them off film. We're doing our little climbing. There's green space in the middle of these buildings. If you were to follow that path, you can go to the far side of this building, and then you would be at that other building, which I told you about, River City. We'll approach it from the front. River City is larger than you think. It looks bigger than it is bigger than it looks. Now we've got the Grand Central, which was that tower that we saw from the street up ahead, and this one, it's got the two towers on either side, and there's a deck with a pool in the middle there for the residents. Now, the residents that are on that particular floor, they actually have some private patio space there as well. And then here, you've got the people that bought these condos, somewhat unaware that this large black building would be coming in. So the people in these lower floors right here, they had a river view at one point in time. And then shortly after purchasing, they broke ground in the building that I just scanned. Then you've got the curved building in the back, and that is River City. We'll head over there in just a moment. As we come over to Wells Street, you've got this very old brick building, and that's an old manufacturing plant, and it's now called the Regal. And every time I go past it, I think of Three's Company, and the club or the bar that they would go to was the Regal Beagle, and I always feel like that's kind of what that reminds me of. The building on the corner is newer, and there's a little bodega in there. So that is you want to get chips, ice cream, frozen food, alcohol, soda. That's the place you're going to go. And then we've got this massive building here. This is Wells Street Tower. 32, 34 floors. Those top floors there's only 4 units on the penthouse floors. So I think the top 2 are penthouse. And they've got a beautiful wraparound balcony. We'll see that a little bit better from further away. And then back into the more of the renovated manufacturing sites that were turned into apartments here at the corner. We're heading south on Wells Street. Yet, James, oops, let me see if I can touch that. James, we've actually seen this a couple of times, right? There's that at the end of the river where the river bisects and goes north and south. That's another one of those buildings where people had a beautiful river view and they thought, oh, we'll always have this beautiful river view. And then all of a sudden, they were able to build another building there. This is a new place down here. So this is the Cooper. The other residential building is called the Cooper. And they've got a new spot here called Bubble and Brew and B&B Chicago. This didn't exist a couple of years ago. I would have really liked it to have been here because I used to live in this neighborhood. And I would have liked another place to go and grab a coffee, or they also have a little bit of a liquor store right here. Now, we started on Wells Street and we're coming down to Polk Street. These first few blocks here in South Loop, if you think about the north-south streets, there's a missing east-west street. So if we were all the way up at Harrison, we would have the 600 Street, And now we're down here at Polk, and this is basically the 800 Street. So there's no 700 Street here. Again, this is the residence that I told you about that's very old. This is River City. See, oh, I never saw the sign up there, but there's a sign up there on the top. This one is pretty interesting. We'll kind of walk through there until somebody stops me. I'll take you across some of their presumably public spaces. Oh, and as we keep on going down, we'll hit these units on the backside coming back up Financial Place. So as we head in here, right, we're heading into the River City parking area. The red building in the distance, which is across the river, that used to be where Northern Trust had its offices. Northern Trust has since bought another red building over on Wacker Drive, or Wacker Street, that is their new home. Kind of go up here, and this residence has some retail in it. So there's some stores. There's like a kindergarten type place or a child's preschool. I want to see if we can stay. Want to see if we can stay away from grabbing kids on film. But it's got a lot of interesting shapes. It's got a little banquet room here. I can see kids playing in the corner here, so I'm going to not shine it on them. Looking back north on Wells Street, you've got again, all of this is residence. At one point in time, this would have been all some form of light manufacturing related to the printing industry. If you go to the basement of this building, they have a bodega down there as well. So, and corner store, you know, in Chicago, we're not supposed to call them bodegas, but I'm just so used to calling that convenience store a bodega. I do like the mural that's ahead of us, right? You've got the youth playing soccer there, and there is a soccer field below it. That soccer field belongs to the British School. We'll see the British School when we get downstairs. So that's Continental Paper, the larger element there, and that is now it's property of the rail yard. The rail yard is just across the river from us, and this is where both Amtrak and Metra will service their cars, service the rail cars that they've got. Kind of sneaking down. We've walked along the length of that River City building upstairs. Now, I'm not going to walk all the way to the end here, but maybe I'll bring the telephoto up. That there's a pretty, there's a new section. I think it's called Block 78 or Parcel 78. It was it still is the largest undeveloped plot of land here in Chicago. And they were going to build a neighborhood there, and they started into it, but it looks like they've kind of slowed that down. I'm going to point you back towards the river, and there's another cruise. Underneath. Let's walk back here, because one of the things that's interesting about this River City condo is that it also has a small marina underneath it. As we walk towards the river, they will do, one of the cruise boats goes out of here. I think it's called the Summer George. That's what it is. This is a rather large empty lot. If we look south, right, we're probably 2 blocks away from Roosevelt. Roosevelt is that higher road that's going over the river. But that's undeveloped land there. And now I think you're able to see that we've got lots of boats, and there's a marina down here underneath the building. So it's up on pylons, keeping it out of the water. Howdy, Lady E. Howdy, Martha. So hopefully you're getting an understanding or a feeling for what's going on there. Neat little car-shaped boat down here. Here's Chicago's Emerald Lady coming down the river. Now, the massive building here, it's in totality, it's called the Roosevelt Collection, and it's got a large retail mall on the first 2 floors of it. Mostly external entrances, but the top floors naturally have internal entrances. And then you can see that it's got an awful lot of residential that's stacked on top of it. So it's mixed use. There's a large theater in there. It's called the Icon Theater. Just guessing, it's probably 16, 20 theaters in there. A couple of restaurants that are in there. Italian restaurant, Nando's Chicken is in there. Yeah, I assume you're talking about this one, James. It's actually the Continental Paper building, but it is a power plant. So all that's really going on in there is they are creating power, and that would have been at a time they would have produced their own power and not taken off of the grid in the train station, in the train yard, sorry. Again, we've got beautiful little soccer field here. I've got plenty of friends who their kids come down here and play. And this is the British International School of Chicago. I think it's through middle school. Like it's probably first grade through middle school. I think. Got some kids practicing soccer out here. And then we'll head down. We saw the backside of these residences as we were coming in. Those 4 buildings at the opening of the show, which I mentioned were Alta this and Alta that and Alta the other. This is the original Alta, this tall tower right here. Again, a newer building, so they would have knocked down the factory that was here and put up this building. Over here on this end, there's a deck with a pool. Very quiet neighborhood here, right? That I can walk out through the Roosevelt Collection, and if Block 78 ever gets developed, then that last street we were on will ride underneath Roosevelt. But until then, you can't get out of this neighborhood unless you come back up here to Polk Street, and then Polk Street you can start going east towards the river, or towards the lake, sorry, or you can continue going north. And again, we're going to see a couple of legacy brick structures that were converted into apartment buildings and condos up here at the top of the street. You can see we're on a street here, but if I was to continue going forward, if you keep looking forward through the sidewalk, you're onto an alley. And that just so happened in some of these that the grid didn't come straight through here just because of manufacturing reasons. And we've got the train tracks that are going to be to our right. We'll walk underneath those train tracks. this looks like it's changed name. So this is now called the L Apartments, but this did used to be called the Alta. And it used to have a little coffee shop here called Dollop, but that looks like it's no longer there. Just because it's got some cool photography and placards, I'm going to show you this building here right on the corner. The raised wall on our right is, again, the LaSalle Street Station. So this used to be called the Printers Building, right? And then Financial Place Printers Building was a project of James A. Patton, the Wheat King, and designed by Harry Wheelock of the Sun of Chicago. Take advantage of the LaSalle Street Station that's behind us. And it's got the, like other buildings in the South Loop Printing District, narrow buildings with large windows, all natural light to go deep into the structure. Now we're heading back out to Polk. The street right after we get past Polk is kind of the backside of the buildings that are on on Clark Street. But these are kind of more private. There's a large building that's being constructed on this street. So this is LaSalle. Right? Clark and LaSalle kind of parallel one another all the way up until you get to Lincoln Park, where they finally merge. I think Clark wins out and it keeps going further north. We're walking underneath probably 10 sets of commuter rails. These trains typically go and service the south and the western suburbs of Chicago. If I look ahead, some people will see on the corner a uniformed person from the other channel. So on this street, the large glass building that you see down there with the blue crane in front of it, that is brand new and just got built. The rest of these are legacy, again, manufacturing buildings that would have been converted over to residential spaces. And then just after this first building, that barbed wire area is a ComEd transformer lot. So this is where power comes into that space at like 765 kV and then gets dropped down to typical household voltages and amperages. Now we have two Omni buildings in a row, and these Omnis, I always remember these being the short-term business rentals. So if you had a company in the area, you would usually do that. But by now, they've all been turned into condominiums. Right? We've talked about this a million times, right? Chicago is serviced by its alleys. So all of the waste goes out of the buildings back here. All of the supplies comes into the buildings back here. And then the retail will be up on the actual frontage street. This is the Social restaurant. Social is, it's a beautiful place. A lot of times what will happen is they'll open up these outside windows and it's got great deck seating. They've got a small little stone pizza oven in there. So you can get basically Napoli type pizza. And then this is Umai, and it is a sushi and Japanese restaurant. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take us on a glance. We'll look south on Clark Street. You'll notice that we see on the far side of the street, it is the back side of Dearborn Village. So that wall, unless you're on the inside and have a key, you can't get out. And then we have one more Omni building on this side, AMLI. And then the last building on this street is the Target. So there's a Target grocery store down here. We'll head north on Clark Street and kind of go through what we're seeing here. So we've got Half Sour. This used to be a Boston Blackies. So Half Sour owns both of these units. The white part of the building is always open or always during business hours. The red building is for events. You'll see concerts, comedians, things of that nature will go on in there. A lot of residents and a lot of retail on this street. So we're seeing the Imprint building here. This is newer. It is the newest residential building over here on Clark Street. We've got the residential building here, Burnham Point. These are very tall buildings, very glass, austere, rectangular buildings. We've got a juice bar here, nail spa. All-Star Seafood.
Okay.
Ha. So, howdy. Guys doing drone photos for the local business. That was All-Star Seafood. This is Club Pilates. And then another bodega here, Urban Pantry. Followed by a parking garage. Now, the parking garage actually exits all the way back there on Polk Street. This is just the civilian or pedestrian entry that you go in. And finally, Paisan's Pizzeria. If we look across the street, we've got First Draft, which is a bar, lots of local drafts, probably 50 taps on brew. We've got the South Loop Stretching and Conditioning. We've got a new tenant here, the Church of Scientology. And if you follow me on the other channel, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of this group. And you'll see that they actually hide from the public, which is interesting. So if you're at all interested in what goes on in that building, definitely follow me over on the Windy City Thetan Watch. Now we've got college residences. So the Dwight Lofts here for Columbia College of Chicago. Got ourselves a Dunkin' Donut. Subway. Just Windy wanders the city. Windy wanders the city. Yep. And then Pat's Pizza. By the way, great pizza. If you're at a bar over on Dearborn, some of those don't have food. They'll let you order in. This is a great pizza to bring in over there. Thin crust pizza. And then the top two buildings here, we've got the parking garage on this side, and we've got a Fifth Third Bank on the far side. Right? As we come up to Harrison, I'm not going to go up Harrison because the building on our left is basically, it's the immigration court building. So if you're coming here and you're trying to get a visa, trying to do naturalization, whether it be green card, permanent resident, or naturalization to citizenship, you're going to spend some time in this building. Then we've got another residential building here. Now, it's interesting, this next street, so you've got this white building here, which I think it's phone. I can't remember. I think it's a phone company, or used to be a phone company. It's got the alley here, and it's got what looks like a street there, and it would have been not Plymouth, but it's actually a street if you go north of Congress Expressway, but down here it feels more like an alley. Federal Street is what this is called. This is a marketing company, but one thing that I like is it's the flavor of the neighborhood. It's Printers Row here, which is a subset of South Loop, and this is an old printing press that you're seeing here. As we head over to Dearborn, I'm going to walk north up to Congress, and then I'll come back down. You've got the Pep Hospital here, but we'll round the corner and we'll have a Potbelly's. There is a coffee shop that shall not be mentioned, and I didn't like when that happened because they're pickup only. And back in the day, I used to always go in to order my coffee, but you could no longer do that. So here we've got Potbelly. You're seeing that these are old named buildings. So you've got the Morton Building, the Pontiac Building. The Morton Building would have been associated with Morton Salt. Naturally, Natural Registrar Buildings. This is the Hotel Blake. It's a pretty posh hotel that on the ground floor, this is the entry, but it takes over that red building over here, the white building, this building, and that building. So it's got all of the upper floors from here, basically this entire side of the street on the upper floors is the Hotel Blake. Yes, the anti-dog coffee. Again, we're seeing Chicago mural on display up here. This is Melly's Cafe. Their kind of claim to fame is they've got one of those little orange juice squeezers, and in the mornings, on the weekends, their brunches will have the unlimited mimosas with fresh squeezed fruit. Now, this next retail spot is Gino's East, and it is going to be one of those places you're going to go and get your deep dish pizza. Again, deep dish pizza is traditionally a tourist thing. It's not really what a lot of Chicagoans eat. I eat deep dish pizza, but I'm one of those people that thinks there's no such thing as bad pizza. So I'll eat any pizza you put in front of me. I want to give you a little heads up. If you ever want to go in and get yourself a deep dish pizza, it is a 45-minute wait for those to be made. They are made fresh. Now, I will say their thin crusts are now I'm going to say they're store-bought, but they're frozen or pre-cooked. So their thin crusts here are pre-cooked, but their deep dish is still made to order. You can see you can get the little mini deep dish here and a drink for $12.79. And we've got a men's grooming place here, Bespoke. Spa for men, love it. Massage, a little gym. And then we're coming back up on Harrison. Now, as we cross Harrison, the large building on the right-hand side of the street, or west side of the street, it used to be called the Transportation Building. It still is called the Transportation Building, but it's all residents. But this used to be where train, bus, taxi-type companies, administrative offices would be in there. Here you're seeing the Divvy bikes as well. Remember, Divvy is, it was purchased by Lyft, but Divvy somehow got to keep their name. So you can either use the Divvy app or the Lyft app. I just choose to use the Divvy app. I'm an old school guy. I actually took a Divvy to work this morning. You just pull the bike out. I pay an annual fee, and I can ride for up to 40 minutes at any one point in time, as much as I want to. There are times where you'll do what I call pony expressing, where you'll ride it for 35 minutes, get off, exchange it for another bike. We'll walk down this side of the street just so we can see what's going on here. Now, when you come here for the Printers Row Book Festival, these two streets are going to be closed down. So Dearborn will be closed down from Wells Street up there, all the way down to Polk Street down here. okay, or the Dearborn Station. You've got a 7-Eleven, also a bodega. You've got a Middle Eastern restaurant, Amarit. I've been there before. I like it. So it's Amarit is Thai. I do like their food. You've got. I've never gone to the Blue Awning here, which is a Mexican restaurant. Usually, you're seeing the advertising for tacos and margaritas. And then we see Sophie. The purple awnings is Sophie, which is kind of a white tablecloth Italian restaurant. That one I've been to before. Again, it's white tablecloth, and you pay the white tablecloth experience, but you get the white tablecloth experience as well. And now, as we head further south, we've got the Printers Row Park here. I'm going to go in there real quick, and I'll just show you the. They've done something very clever with the seating in this park. Remember that this is Printers Row, and they are paying homage to it. And if you're familiar with how printing used to take place, they would have a person called a typesetter. And the typesetter, he would basically put a whole bunch of individual letters in a certain order so that when you put a piece of paper on top of it, it would print whatever you were trying to write out on the block or out on the paper. So the blocks themselves happen to be in reverse order, right? So if you look at it, right, this is talking about South Clark Street. So it's, right, Cube House Play. There are some blocks missing here. So you've got Polk Street, but it's written back or in the reverse, so that when you press it down on the paper, it will show the right direction. Earlier I mentioned Pat's Pizza. So we've got Casey's Tavern here. This is one where if you go into Casey's, they don't really have their own kitchen, so Pat's Pizza is a great idea for that. You've got a couple of spas as we come down, cleaner. There's a wine store down here on the street. The wine store has tasting now, and they actually, I think there's like 6-seat bar in there right now. We're seeing a couple of vacancies here, always tough. On this side of the street, this is Sandmeyer's bookstore. Sandmeyer's bookstore. It's got a lot of old print books. So if you want to get first prints or collector legacy books, this is a great store to just browse around in. So it's, used legacy vintage books in this place. It used to be called the Franklin Company, and we've seen this on the other channel, but right, it's got the beautiful artwork up here. So first impression, and then just talking about the idea that it's the Franklin Company and it's the catalog book printing. Their street signage. Then as we continue down the street, we've got Flaco's Tacos. We've got a little bakery over on this side of the street. Necessary Sufficient. Wellness clinic, a cleaner. And Roots Pizza, which is Quad City style pizza. Basically, they just cut their pizzas in squares. So it's on a cookie sheet, and they cut them in squares. It's got a beautiful upstairs. So when I go across the street, I'll try to remember to come back here. But you can see that they've got the upstairs open right now. So great to watch a sports game with your buddies. And then we've got the Dearborn Station here. This is a no longer functioning station. All of the tracks that led to here are now moved over to LaSalle Street Station, which we saw a couple of minutes ago on the video. It's retail inside. I think there's a hot yoga in here. You've got a Bar Louie on the side over here. As we cross the street, we've got Toto's Market. Now, Toto's Market is basically a mom and pop Whole Foods. It's a it's a spendy little place. But almost everything they've got is curated. So the bread's curated from someplace, the meats are curated from someplace. They make their own soups there. They do rotisserie chicken there. Yeah, Lady E, I have made a pit stop there before. Yeah, you know what? I was a little bit late in getting this posted, so I'm sorry for that. Just for fun, I don't think on this channel we've walked into Dearborn Park. So, Dearborn Park is a residential community to the south of me. Again, here you can see the Divvy bike stands. Uh, if you go into Dearborn Park, there are several ways to get into this park by foot, but there's only one way to drive into this park. So the neighbors here, have that sense of security that the only people driving in here are the people that belong in here. On the left up here, we've got a childcare. So again, I'm going to try to keep the camera off, and then we've got the back side of the residential building here is showing their little park. Apparently, Barbie came with her Range Rover today. The girls in the park are waving. I'm going to keep you below the fence line here. These 2 blocks over here are kind of low rise, and they have the townhome feel to them. You've got beautiful little park here, seating area in the middle. You can tell that people walk the trails around the boundaries quite a bit. These people, right, they've got their fenced-in backyard. You'll see they'll come out here and grill in the summertime. I can see a couple people that are out reading right now, taking advantage of the nice weather. Yeah, you know what? I'm struggling to get back into my routine in regards to posting the videos ever since 2 weeks ago. I was out of town, and it's just taken me a while to reset. Okay, we're going to walk down this street because it's going to open up to a beautiful park, and then it'll help me show you what I mean by the idea that you can't get into this unless you belong here. We'll see its boundaries. So again, just a nice green space, right? They've set aside some space to just show some natural beauty in the area. I forget, out of ease, does Africa just create one time zone? Or do you guys have multiple time zones in Africa? I know at the top it's very wide, but at the bottom it feels like it's possible to only have one time zone. I will tell you, my experience of Africa time is similar to island time. We'll get to it when we get to it. Again, right, you've got these residences here, and earlier we talked about the Omni, so that's what you're seeing through the trees right here. The second Omni building is this building here, but then in the background, right, you see the Sears Tower up above the roof line. Yeah, that makes sense, Lady E. Now, on the other side of this fence is Clark Street, but again, you can't get in here from Clark Street. So the wall is kind of a barrier to create privacy or a sense of security, if you will, for this neighborhood. beautiful ivy covered element there, right? We're seeing people's backyards here. Yeah, I can't talk about Cape Town's time, but I can say it was a beautiful space. I loved going up tabletop and is it Lion's Back or Lion's Head there? I've got family that kind of lives in between the two hills. And then spent some time in Hermanus recently. As I said earlier, right, we've got the Target at the end of Clark Street here. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all, Lady E. So here you can see the tennis court, and behind the tennis court is a wall, and that wall is basically the berm that holds up Roosevelt, because Roosevelt has kind of a flyover of Clark Street. So Roosevelt and Clark don't intersect. Roosevelt goes over the top of Clark. But remember, Roosevelt is the southern boundary of the South Loop. And just a nice green space back in here, very quiet. By the way, those tennis courts are public. It's just that nobody knows they're here. And then I hear somebody doing some electric trimming, so we might have some volume fun, but we'll see how well the mic isolates us. I did. So my partner and I are both avid runners. We were able to, we climbed up tabletop and then took the funicular down. And she's done Lion's Head a lot. I ran Lion's Head one morning while I was down there maybe 2 years ago. That area, well, that area of the world is interesting to me because of all of the animals that are there. If you are outside of Cape Town, baboons are actually wild. So, you know, they lived there long before us, and you'll be driving down the road and there will be baboons on the side of the street. I would encourage you not to pet the baboons. They're not fun, but they are awesome to look at. So as I mentioned before, and I'm going to just walk into the middle of the street here to see if we can show it. You can see you've got Roosevelt there, and then there's a walkway underneath it, and that's Dearborn Park 2. But again, you can only get into that area pedestrian-wise. So at this point, we've walked almost the entire area of Dearborn Park, and we've yet to see a street entry. Yeah, the other one, Lady E, is it Blau Monkey or Blue Monkey? The smaller monkey that is seemingly wild along the southern coast and the Garden Route. Now these buildings are a little bit larger on this side, so we're what, 4 stories tall, and these front State Street, and State Street again is a much more higher traffic, higher pedestrian, higher retail density. There's no retail in this particular park. So when you're out there on State Street, you kind of can see the front of these buildings, and it has a very townhome look to it, right? So you'll have the steep stairs, the porch, and the front door. very quiet, beautiful. A lot of these neighborhoods have a lot of old trees, right? We did have the Dutch elm disease, and we've had some of the Asian beetles have caused havoc over here in Chicago. But for the most part, we've got an awful lot of old trees and planting trees. Planting trees is awesome. So someday I'll show you the heat map of my Garmin. Now, the old Johnny Cash song, I've Been Everywhere. Walking wise, I've pretty much been everywhere here in the city. There were times when during my running days, I would try to cover an entire neighborhood so that on the heat map, I would have a color on every street. So as we talked about before, right, there's one entrance to get in here, and this happens to be that entrance. So the only way to drive into this neighborhood is through this street right here, which is, pretty sure it's, okay, so it's 9th Street. 9th Street and State Street. And then Dearborn South is 14th Street. I'm sorry, Dearborn Park 2 is 14th Street. Yeah, I've tried to figure out if there is a way that I could like use some kind of GPS mechanism that would trace the map. I'm guessing it gets a little bit out of my budget. We're a long way from revenue positive on this on this channel. So now we're on State Street. We'll see an awful lot of residents on this side, but also retail. On the far side of the street, it's retail from here down to Roosevelt. And then Roosevelt is one of the major CTA train stations, so you can get the orange line, the green line, and the red line there. What else is over there? Well, we can head down that way. Here you've got Honeyberry, which again, breakfast, brunch place. They have meals for all day long, but for the most part, you're going to see people using it as their lunch and brunch. So this is a fairly new building. I'd say it's about 7 years old, and then it's got the beautiful pool deck right there where the trees are. As we go down here, I think we're going to see an Orange Theory. The Hilti, I think, is power tools, equipment, and such. Got Chrysler's Natural Pet. And then we're going to see in the next block, there is another physical therapy place. So we've got Chrysler's and then the animal hospital here. Yeah, James, I would only do it if it could do it automatically for me, like if I could put an inset in here. Now, one thing that I could do is when I edit, I could possibly create curated videos and show where I was at. But really, when I edit, I want to be able to tell stories. So I don't want to say, here, follow me or re-narrate the conversation we have while we're out here. So you guys just get an advantage of, while I'm getting all this footage, you get to ask me questions and see how silly I am. And again, on this side, it's been residential all the way down. And we would have seen that right on the inside of this. This would have been that building that leads up to where the tunnel goes underneath Roosevelt. I love the lives because other than the fact that I've got to take the time to do it, I just have to be out here. Right? It's so amazing how much extra time it takes when you want to go and edit something. I should figure out how Fiverr works and stuff like that and say, hey, here's the story I want to tell, give them the narration, and say, hey, using the videos that I captured, go put images behind my story. And again, here you'll see that we can go down into the red line. So in Chicago, the red line and the blue line are basically subways in the city center, and the rest of the lines are going to be upstairs, right, or overhead. And then as we come to the corner here, we've got a Walgreens, and I haven't been here in a long time. It looks like the Walgreens is still here, so we've got a Walgreens. I'm going to take the woman off view. And you can see now the train station overhead, which will be the green and orange lines. The green line will take you south to 63rd Street, and the orange line will take you out to the Midway Airport. If you're ever coming in Midway, so Southwest in and taking Midway, it's an easier airport to navigate, and it's an easier trip into the city. You can get into the city in about 20, 25 minutes. Whereas if you're taking the O'Hare, it's harder to navigate the airport, and then additionally, you're going to be on the train for almost an hour. Yeah, we got to figure out who I can talk to on that, lady. So one day, what I want to do, and I won't be able to do it live only because I won't get signal in the subway. But one day I will kind of take the blue line from one end to the other at night and just kind of go past all of the exits. You'll get the door chimes, you'll hear the exit calls, and show you that. And now we're heading up Wabash. We just passed Five Guys. We've got Chipotle. You've got Low Country. Low Country is interesting, right? You can buy, a boiled seafood in a bag. You need to bring your bib and your dirty clothes when you want to eat at Low Country. It can be messy. Hey, Cubs, how are you? I am just about to... Cubs, you come in and I have to shut down the streams all the time. No. I am just about to shut this one down, and we will head over to the other channel and do our work against cults in my city. So I've got about 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick little recharge. And I will see you all over on Windy City Phaeton Watch. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here helping out, Fuzz. Great to see you, Cubs. Great to see you, James, Lady. Fun having a chat with all of you. Thanks, everybody.